Bonjour, Paul.
Bonjour Estelle.
Welcome back.
Merci.
Let's start by reviewing how to ask something très important when traveling.
Ah, où sont les toilettes? Where are the bathrooms?
Bonsoir, monsieur. Où sont les toilettes?
Bonsoir, les toilettes sont ici.
Merci.
Remember that in French, you'd normally ask, where are the bathrooms? Not, where is the bathroom? But let's say we did want to ask about just one thing. Maybe the subway.
We'd start with où est instead of où sont. Où est le métro?
Or maybe, où est le café?
Où est le café?
Le café est ici.
Merci. Au revoir.
Though, ideally, you wouldn't just walk up to someone on the street and startle them with a question like that.
You'd try to be polite and get their attention first. In English, I'd say, excuse me.
Exactly. And in French, you've probably heard something similar. Excusez-moi.
Excusez-moi.
Moi is French for me. So, excusez-moi literally means excuse me. And the sound moi is similar to the beginning sound in toilette. Toi. Moi.
Moi. Excusez-moi.
Excusez-moi, où est le café?
Excusez-moi, où est le café? Or, excusez-moi, où sont les toilettes?
Let's hear a couple French speakers using excusez-moi to ask polite questions.
Excusez-moi, où sont les toilettes?
Les toilettes sont ici.
Excusez-moi, où est le café?
Le café est ici.
Merci. Au revoir.
Your turn. Repeat after me. Excusez. Moi. Excusez-moi. But if a French speaker is in a hurry, maybe they really need to find a bathroom, for example, you might not always hear the X sound at the beginning of excusez-moi.
That's true. Instead of excusez-moi, you're more likely to hear something like excusez-moi.
Excusez-moi.
Check it out.
Excusez-moi, madame. Où est le métro? Le métro est ici. Ah, merci.
Excusez-moi can also be used to get a server's attention in a restaurant.
Excusez-moi?
Oui, monsieur.
Of course, oui here means yes.
Oui.
Oui. You're likely to hear oui in response to excusez-moi.
Okay, so I've gotten the server's attention. Now what?
Well, then you order. For example, you could say un café. We know that un café means a coffee shop, but it also means a coffee. Un café.
Un café.
Uh-huh. Un café. But it would be extra polite to add please at the end. S'il vous plaît. That means please. Un café, s'il vous plaît.
Excusez-moi?
Oui, monsieur.
Un café, s'il vous plaît.
Excusez-moi. Oui? Où est le cinéma, s'il vous plaît?
Let's start with the first part of s'il vous plaît. S'il.
S'il.
S'il vous.
S'il vous.
S'il vous plaît.
S'il vous plaît.
But when speakers are in a hurry, that L sound at the end often gets left off. S'il vous plaît.
S'il vous plaît. Now you practice. Repeat after me. Vous. S'il vous. S'il vous plaît.
So we've learned how to say excuse me,
Excusez-moi, which can be used to politely get someone's attention.
and we learned a common response to excusez-moi. Oui?
Finally, we learned to say please. S'il vous plaît. Now let's practice one more time. Repeat after me. Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi, où sont les toilettes? Excusez-moi, où sont les toilettes, s'il vous plaît?
In the next lesson, we'll talk more about French you can use in a restaurant. In the last lesson, we practiced asking for help politely by using excusez-moi and s'il vous plaît.
Excusez-moi, où sont les toilettes, s'il vous plaît?
Les toilettes sont ici.
Merci.
We also practiced using excusez-moi to order in a restaurant.
Excusez-moi, un café s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour. Une pizza, s'il vous plaît.
The woman just now said, un café s'il vous plaît.
Which means a coffee, please.
And the man asked for une pizza. You can probably guess that means a pizza. But did you notice the difference between un café and une pizza? Let's listen again.
Un café s'il vous plaît.
Une pizza, s'il vous plaît.
Un and une both mean a, as in a pizza or a coffee. But the first one, un, is nasal. It's a little like the sound in the English word sung, but you send air through your mouth and nose at the same time. Un. Un.
Now you try. Repeat after me. Un café. Un café, s'il vous plaît.
In French, all nouns are either masculine or feminine, even when you're not talking about people. Whether something is masculine or feminine sometimes feels pretty random. Café just happens to be masculine, so we'd use un, which is masculine. Un café.
Pizza, on the other hand, is feminine, so we say une pizza. Une.
Une. Une pizza. Let's review. We say un for masculine nouns like café, un café, and une for feminine nouns like pizza. Une pizza.
Un café. Une pizza.
To pronounce une, as in une pizza, start by saying in, like the final sound in the English word seen. But then round your lips forward like you're blowing a kiss. So, in becomes une. Seen, une.
Une. Une. Let's practice. Repeat after me. Une. Une pizza. Une pizza, s'il vous plaît.
Once you've got un and une down, you're ready to order anything.
How about a baguette?
Of course, baguette is feminine, so you'd use une. Une baguette.
Excusez-moi,
Oui,
une baguette s'il vous plaît.
Now you give it a shot. Repeat after me. Une baguette. Une baguette, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, we'll turn off grading for now, but you can still follow along. Now we know the difference between un and une.
As in un café and une pizza. Un is masculine and une is feminine.
That's right, but don't worry too much about masculine and feminine right now. You'll get the hang of it eventually.
We're also ready to order practically anything. Un café, une pizza.
And don't forget une baguette.
Oui, une baguette.
In the next lesson, we'll learn even more. You'll be thrilled at how much French you know already. Let's see, where are we? In the last lesson, we learned the difference between un and une.
They both mean a, But un is used for masculine words like un café, and une for feminine words like une pizza.
We also learned how to use excusez-moi and s'il vous plaît to order things like a coffee or a pizza at a restaurant.
Excusez-moi, un café s'il vous plaît.
Excusez-moi, une pizza s'il vous plaît.
Okay, let's practice this one more time. Repeat after me. Un café. Un café, s'il vous plaît. Excusez-moi. Un café, s'il vous plaît. But just saying a coffee, please, could sound a little abrupt, don't you think?
Yeah. Instead, you might want to start with something like je voudrais, which means I would like. Je voudrais.
Je voudrais. For example, you can say je voudrais une pizza, which means I would like a pizza.
Je voudrais une pizza. Je here means I, and it's similar to the je sound in bonjour. It's the same sound you hear in the middle of the English word measure. Je.
Je. How about the second part? Voudrais, or would like. That one's a little trickier.
Well, it's not that tricky once you break it down. We talked about the beginning sound in this word vous when practicing s'il vous plaît. Vous.
Vous.
Now in the second part of voudrais, you can hear that French R again too. Re. Vous. Drais.
Re. Vous. Drais.
Voudrais. Je voudrais.
Je voudrais.
Je voudrais un café.
Je voudrais un café. Okay, let's put it all together. Repeat after me. Voudrais. Je voudrais. Je voudrais un café.
Now you're ready to use je voudrais to order at a restaurant. Let's hear some examples.
Bonjour, Madame Mouret.
Bonjour, Marc. Je voudrais un croissant, s'il vous plaît.
Bonsoir, monsieur.
Bonsoir, je voudrais une pizza, s'il vous plaît.
Parfait.
Did you catch what the server said at the end?
Parfait.
Oui, that means perfect. And once again, we hear a French R in the middle of the word. Par. Parfait.
Parfait. Great. Now you try. Repeat after me. Parfait. We've covered a lot in these last few lessons.
Yup, we just learned how to say I would like, je voudrais.
And before that, we talked about the difference between un and une.
We also learned how to say excuse me, excusez-moi, and please, s'il vous plaît.
And finally, we learned how to say parfait, which means perfect.
Amazing. Now you'll know exactly what to say when ordering at a French coffee shop, restaurant, or bakery.
That's right.
See you soon.
Au revoir.
In the last few lessons, we learned some ways to order food at a restaurant.
Bonjour, Madame Mouret.
Bonjour, Marc. Je voudrais un croissant, s'il vous plaît.
Bonsoir, monsieur.
Bonsoir, je voudrais une pizza, s'il vous plaît.
Parfait.
Are you ready to put those skills to the test?
Let's imagine you're walking down a street in Paris. Lots of people are out and about. It's around noon, which means it's time for lunch. You find a small but busy restaurant and walk inside.
First, greet your waiter. Say hello or good day in French. Parfait. Bonjour.
The waiter says hello back.
Bonjour.
He hands you a menu and gives you some time to look it over. When he comes back, he says, Vous avez choisi? That means, have you decided?
Vous avez choisi? Vous avez means you have, and choisi means chosen.
You got it. Vous avez choisi. Okay, it's time to practice ordering. When the waiter asks, Have you decided? Tell him, I would like a pizza in French.
Vous avez choisi?
Fantastique. Je voudrais une pizza.
But let's say that instead of a pizza, you just wanted to order a coffee. Try saying, I would like a coffee, please, in French.
Vous avez choisi?
Très bien. Je voudrais un café, s'il vous plaît.
What if you wanted both a coffee and a yummy pastry? Try saying, I would like a coffee and a croissant in French. Excellent. Je voudrais un café et un croissant.
The waiter now responds with,
Parfait.
now you say, thank you. Bon travail. Merci.
Okay, you're done eating. You've paid the check. But before you go, you'd like to stop by the bathroom. Ask your waiter, where's the bathroom? Très bien. Où sont les toilettes?
The waiter points you to the bathroom and says,
Les toilettes sont ici.
Amazing, you did it! Now you're ready to have a delicious lunch at a restaurant in France.
Bonjour, Estelle.
Bonjour, Paul.
Today we'll be practicing a question that's especially useful in casual conversation. And that is, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good to know, Estelle. But let's try that in French this time. How are you is comment ça va?
Comment ça va?
Comment ça va? Let's hear a few examples of comment ça va in the streets of Paris.
Comment ça va?
Bonjour Elsa, comment ça va?
Thomas?
Hey, Marc! Comment ça va?
Let's break it down. The first word, comment, means how. Comment.
Comment?
Comment ends in the nasal sound en. To pronounce that sound, first say ah while dropping your jaw a bit. At the same time, try not to push air through your nose. See if you can feel the difference between ah, and en. En.
A, en.
Now the whole word. Comment.
Comment? Now you practice. Repeat after me. Ment. Comment?
And now let's focus on the second part of comment ça va, and that is...
Ça va.
Oui, ça va. Comment ça va?
Comment ça va? Ça va literally means it goes or it's going.
So when we say comment ça va, we're saying how does it go or how's it going?
Comment ça va, Paul?
Comment ça va, Estelle?
Now it's your turn to practice. Repeat after me. Ça va. Comment? Comment ça va?
Now let's practice answering that question. To respond, you can say,
Ça va bien.
exactly. Ça va bien. Bien means well, and we just learned that ça va means it's going.
So, ça va bien means it's going well.
That's right. Ça va bien. Comment ça va, Estelle?
Ça va bien.
You might have noticed that bien also has a nasal sound. Bien. Ça va bien.
Ça va bien. Give it a try and repeat after me. Bien. Ça va bien.
Now that we've learned how to ask how someone is doing and also how to respond to that same question, let's hear some examples of this French in use.
Bonjour Sophie.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va bien.
Ah, bonjour Louis.
Bonjour, Marie.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci.
Notice how the last speaker added merci.
Ça va bien, merci.
You can add merci to any situation where you'd normally say thank you in English.
That's right. Okay, now what?
Next up, we're going to practice more casual ways to ask how someone is doing. But we'll do that in the next lesson. Last time, we learned how to ask, how are you, in French. Comment ça va?
And also how to answer that question. For example, ça va bien, merci.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci.
Okay, but doesn't it feel like we're leaving the other person hanging a little if we only say ça va bien?
Totally. In English, you'd probably reciprocate by saying something like, I'm good, how are you?
That's right.
Well, don't worry. It's easy enough to do this in French too. You can just add et vous at the end.
Et vous?
Et vous? Et means and vous means you. So et vous means
And you?
right. And to say I'm doing well, thank you, and you, we'd say
Ça va bien, merci. Et vous?
Bonjour monsieur, comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et vous?
Ça va bien, merci.
Okay, now you try. Repeat after me. Vous. Et vous? Ça va bien. Et vous? One thing we haven't mentioned yet is that vous is actually the formal way of saying you.
Ah, good point. You wouldn't use vous to talk to someone you know really well, like your sister or a friend.
Instead, you'd use vous to address people you want to show respect to, like teachers, or someone you don't know all that well, like maybe a receptionist at a hotel.
But if we want to be more casual, we'd use et toi instead of et vous. Toi still means you, but you can use it when talking to people you're closer to, like a friend. Toi.
Toi. It sounds similar to the beginning of toilette. Toi. Toilette.
That's right. Toi. So if you're talking to a friend, instead of ça va bien et vous, you could say
Ça va bien. Et toi? Give it a try. Repeat after me. Toi. Et toi? Ça va bien. Et toi?
Okay, there's another way to make this conversation more casual. Are you ready?
Hit me.
We could also replace bonjour with salut.
Ah oui. Salut.
Salut means both hello and goodbye, but it's definitely more casual than bonjour or au revoir. And you can say salut at any time of day, morning or evening. Salut Estelle.
Salut Paul.
Salut ends with the French sound U.
U. U. Yeah, That's very French.
Oui. To make this sound, salut, say I, but pucker your lips. U, U,
I. U.
U, lu.
Lu. Salut.
Parfait. Let's practice.
Repeat after me. Lu. Salut. Salut, Paul.
Now here's a final tip. When French speakers want a quicker and more casual way to ask how someone's doing, instead of comment ça va, they might just say ça va?
Ça va? All by itself?
Yep, ça va? It still means how are you? Just make sure your voice rises a little at the end so it sounds like a question. Ça va?
Ça va?
Let's hear some examples of ça va used between friends.
Salut, Elsa. Ça va?
Ça va bien, Thomas. Et toi?
Ça va bien. Merci. Sophie, ça va?
Salut Thomas. Ça va bien et toi?
Ça va bien.
Great! We've now learned 3 ways to be more casual when chatting with friends.
The first was toi. That's the informal way of saying vous or you.
Yep, toi, like at the beginning of toilette.
We also learned salut, which means hello or goodbye.
And finally, we learned that you can say ça va instead of comment ça va to ask how someone's doing.
It's just quicker and more casual.
In the next lesson, we'll learn a few new ways to say goodbye, like see you soon and see you tomorrow. Comment ça va, Estelle?
Ça va bien. Et toi?
Ça va bien, merci. Last time we practiced these new ways to greet people we know well.
Yup, like friends or family.
Now that we've got that down, let's look at another casual way to say goodbye. We already know that au revoir means goodbye and that salut can mean both hello and goodbye.
Uh-huh. But what if instead of goodbye, we wanted to say something more like, see you soon?
Right, in that case you'd use à bientôt.
À bientôt.
À bientôt. Let's break it down. À at the beginning means until, and the second part, bientôt, starts with a word we already know. Bien. Bientôt.
Bien.
Bien.
Bientôt.
Tôt means soon. So à bientôt means until soon.
Or see you soon.
À bientôt, Marc.
À bientôt, Louis.
À bientôt, Madame Mouret.
À bientôt, Sophie.
Okay, now you try. Repeat after me. Bien. Bientôt. À bientôt. So, à bientôt means see you soon. What if I wanted to say see you tomorrow,
Easy peasy. You'd start by saying à again,
which we know in this context means until.
but then instead of bientôt, you'd add demain. À demain.
À demain.
Demain means tomorrow.
So, à demain means see you tomorrow.
Yep, à bientôt. And à demain.
See you tomorrow.
The ending of demain sounds a lot like the ending of bien. Demain. Bien.
Demain. Now you practice. Repeat after me. Main. Demain. À demain.
Now that we've learned a few ways to greet friends and family, let's listen to an exchange between two people who are trying to be more formal or respectful.
Bonsoir, Madame Mouret. Comment ça va?
Bonsoir, Louis. Ça va bien, merci. Et vous?
Ça va bien, merci.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, Madame Mouret.
And now, here's a similar conversation between two close friends.
Salut, Elsa. Ça va?
Salut. Bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien.
À demain.
Oui, à demain.
Okay, à demain and à bientôt are great, but let's say you want to be super specific about when you'll see that person again. Let's say you have plans on Saturday or samedi.
Samedi.
Samedi. Remember, we learned see you tomorrow and see you soon. À demain and à bientôt. So, how do you think we would say see you Saturday? À samedi.
À samedi.
Of course, spoken language gets messy, so instead of à samedi, you're more likely to hear a French speaker say à samedi. It means the same thing. À samedi.
À samedi. See you Saturday.
À samedi.
Now let's practice this more common pronunciation. Repeat after me. Samedi. À samedi.
So, in the last few lessons, we learned how to say salut, which is a casual way of saying hello or goodbye.
We also learned how to ask how someone is doing. Comment ça va? Or just ça va?
And we learned how to respond to that question.
For example, by saying ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
And finally,
We learned à bientôt, or see you soon.
à demain. See you tomorrow.
And don't forget, see you Saturday. À samedi.
Or, when pronounced a little quicker, à samedi. Let's hear some French speakers, shall we?
Salut Thomas.
Ah, salut Sophie. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien.
À bientôt, Marie.
Oui, à samedi.
Ah oui, à samedi.
Amazing. You're now all set to have a short conversation with a friend in French.
And next time, we'll add even more to that conversation.
Can't wait. À bientôt, Estelle.
À bientôt.
In this lesson, we're going to practice chatting with a friend.
Yes, we already know a lot of things to say in a casual conversation.
To help you remember everything we've learned, let's listen to some French speakers.
Salut, Elsa. Ça va?
Salut. Bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien.
À demain.
Oui, à demain.
Okay, are you ready to use your new French skills?
Imagine you're walking around your neighborhood at Paris and you run into a good friend, Thomas.
Thomas waves. He comes over to you and says,
Salut.
say, hello, Thomas, in French. Parfait. Salut, Thomas.
So after you and Thomas say hello to each other, what could you say next?
Well, I would probably ask him how he's doing.
Great idea. Ask Thomas, how are you, in French. Fantastique. Comment ça va?
After Thomas responds and asks you the same question, tell him, I'm good, thanks.
Ça va bien? Et toi?
Excellent. Ça va bien, merci.
Okay, you have a quick chat with Thomas, and now it's time to say goodbye. After Thomas says goodbye, say, see you soon, in French.
Au revoir.
Fantastique. À bientôt.
But let's say during your conversation, you actually made plans to get lunch with Thomas on Saturday. So this time, when Thomas says goodbye, say, see you Saturday.
Au revoir.
Très bien. À samedi. Well done. You've learned some very important phrases to use in a casual conversation.
And you're one step closer to having an entire conversation in French.